Deus, o salutaris nostre, Dominex meus, Dominex Deus, Dominex meus, Deus noster, Dominex est, Angeli, Ave Pater, Laudem Domino Majestatis,
Hey, how's everybody doing? Hope you're having a fantastic day. It is Monday, October 6th, and I am here for a stream that I haven't done in a while. I'm here for another Q&A. I'm supposed to have Hasan. So Hasan, my friend Hasan, he's awesome. He's going to be able to answer all of your questions. He was supposed to be here on time, but Hasan was actually around 30 seconds late, well, actually around a minute late. So unfortunately, that made me like 30 seconds late. So it's all Hasan's fault. But he's now here, and we're here to answer all of the different questions that you may have, to answer all of the questions. I'm supposed to do an after show at 9 o'clock. I haven't decided whether I want to do that or not. This is the third video I've done today. I did a stream this morning. I did a recorded video with collaborating with another account earlier today. That'll be out tomorrow. And now this is my third stream. I don't know if I want to do 4 streams today. That might be a little bit much. But we'll be here. We'll be answering hopefully all of the questions that you have. And yeah, so how are you doing, Hasan? You're muted. Oh, no, it's even worse. He's not muted. His microphone is just not good. Or maybe is my sound not on? Say something. No, his sound's not on. Well, we're just going to have Hasan figure that one out. What I wanted to do kind of in this beginning while we wait for the questions to all flood in, I wanted to give a brief comment.
Hello?
Oh, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, finally. I was worried.
Yeah. Well, while the questions flooded, actually, Hasan, tell everyone who you are in 1 minute or less. Don't make this into a yap fest. I linked the TavNet website. There's now a TavNet website, so I linked that one for you guys. But in 1 minute or less, why don't you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
My name is Hasan. I'm from the UK. I work with Christian on various different things, sometimes behind the scenes, sometimes I come on here. I'm one of his inner circle guys, and also we work together on a project, a mission network called the Theology network, which is a mission whose purpose is to bring together and organize the demographic of converts to Catholicism from Muslim backgrounds across the world and meet with their pastoral and sacramental needs.
That's very succinct. So there's a link to that website below. A lot of cool stuff. Actually, we have a little project, a little documentary coming out soon. Very soon, talking about North African converts and Middle Eastern converts. So it'll be very fun. We're going to, well, I don't know if fun is the right word for it. Actually, a lot of it's pretty sad and pretty tragic. So a lot of it's not fun, but at least it will be entertaining. I don't know if entertaining is the right way of putting it. You'll want to watch it. Okay. You'll want to watch it. You want to hear about all the tragic stories and hear about the good work that's going on. Hopefully you'll learn some stuff about our Catholic brothers and sisters in the Muslim world, the type of struggles and difficulties they have to deal with, the very grave and unfortunate circumstances that they have been put in. So yeah, you'll want to hear that. Okay. So it looks like a lot of questions are flooding in. So I don't want to get behind on the questions. So yeah, Sorry about that, guys.
Right.
Okay, so first one's from Since 33. Could you explain how active and passive causality aren't physical and moral causality?
Oh, that's a good
No.
one. He gave you $5.
Well, okay. I guess from my reading, I read the message that you sent me earlier. I had taken notes from Woodbury on this like 2 or 3 years ago, and then I kind of forgot what I read from him. But at least from my understanding of what it was, when it comes to moral causality actually specifically posits a moral disposition in the subject receiving. Whereas when it comes to like the distinction between active and passive causality, that's so it's okay. So when it comes to moral versus physical causality, that is about the relation of causality with the disposition of the subject. Whereas when it comes to active and passive, that is so like moral causality is causality with disposition in the subject. Active and passive causality, that's actually in relation to the relation of the subject to this act. Do you get? Does that even make sense? That's like the reading that I got. So like moral causality, there is a disposition in the subject, whereas active and passive is like the relation of the subject to the thing. So like even with physical, like there could be like an active disposition. Or this, I don't know. That's just kind of the reading I got. I don't know if that makes any sense. But since you
Makes
gave,
sense to me.
I'll reread the comment that you sent me. And Hasan, it's about the sacrament of circumcision, and because some call it ex opere operato, and it's really weird, but they say it's in a passive sense.
Yeah.
Remember this?
Bro said literally not an answer, lol. GG's.
It's so over. Okay, I will type it. I will type it in because Kevin, he's and I won't make any commentary about Kevin, but so sometimes you need to explain. I'm gaslighting him so hard right now. Sometimes you just need to explain it more to him. You know how Kevin is. Have you seen Lofton's video on the Magisterium? What do you think if you have it? Dude, that's like saying, have you seen Wagner's video on the Trinity? Like, there's like a bajillion videos from Michael Lofton on the Magisterium. So, I mean, which thesis in particular? I'm not sure.
Bro, you guys are making me feel like Nick Fuentes right now.
Dude, you didn't have to. Dog, you're getting the stream flagged in like the first 10 minutes. Okay, God could will certain things, but he does not. Why is this not called passivity in God, since he is not doing all things that are within his power? Yes. Okay. This is a good question. Astro, he explains it like this. When it comes to God's will, the object, the necessary and primary object to which his will terminates is himself. Okay? That's like a first principle right there. Whereas everything else has a non-necessary relation to God. They're secondary objects in that way. So when it comes to the things which God wills, it is rather than like us, we go from like not a state of not willing to like a state of willing. For God, it's the exact flip side. So it's like an overflowing of the fullness of his actual will. So he's already terminated in himself, right? That's his purely actual will in himself as the primary object. Other things, rather than like an increase that's happening, rather than an increase, it's an overflow. That's a good analogy right there, right? Okay, Hasan says that makes sense. I'm trying to make like the Astro explanations a little bit simpler, okay? Does a Protestant like myself who believes all that the Catholic Church teaches have the Sunday obligation? So you are a baptized Christian who believes all that the Catholic Church teaches. So you're not a Protestant, you're a Catholic, right? Do you understand this question, Hasan?
Yeah.
Okay. Trent Horn said Vatican II is not infallible. Is that correct? Okay, so yeah, there's a number of different minds on this question. And there are certain individuals who say that there are no infallibly promulgated doctrines in Vatican II. Those individuals are wrong, because there's a lot of infallibly promulgated doctrines in Vatican II. Some will say, well, yes, this is the case, but there's nothing new. That's a position that a lot of people say. But I think the position which is correct, and this is a position I take, is that while there was no infallible definitions, there wasn't infallible definitions. This is what St. Paul VI says. There were infallible teachings. And that may sound like very, very confusing, but it makes sense because it didn't take the form of a solemn definition. This is like really weird, and it's hard to explain, but the same thing goes for papal encyclicals as well. I think, Hasan, you've probably read Fenton's article on papal encyclicals. If this doesn't make sense to you, then probably reading Fenton, Joseph Clifford Fenton, his article on papal encyclicals makes a lot of sense out of this. But basically, when you have an exercise of a magisterium that is universal, teaching that something is of divine revelation, and everybody is holding that it is of faith, right? Even when it is not done with the solemnity of a definition, this is supposing that it is infallibly taught for the entire Christian people. So this happens oftentimes in papal encyclicals, where it's not done in the form of a definition, but it is something which is of like it's a weird way of putting it, but like of an ordinary and universal magisterium of the papacy that is non-definitive, but it is infallible. So there's like kind of a correlative with the way in which the bishops with and under Peter work outside of inside an ecumenical council. There's like a similar weird thing that works like inside and outside of a dogmatic definition. Does this explanation make sense at all, Hasan?
Yeah.
Yes. So also it's to clarify this question as well. The question of whether, if you're asking, is X ecumenical council infallible or not? It's like asking, is X pope infallible or not? You have to ask the question, okay, what are they saying? There's a lot of stuff that popes say, and there's a lot of stuff that ecumenical councils say that are not infallibly taught. Like there are explanations which are present. There's certain times in which the ecumenical council or a pope don't use the plenitude of their power. So like these things do occur. So yes, there are things which are infallibly taught at Vatican II. I would say that they're not taught after the mode of a solemn definition. Other people would say it's simply a repetition of past infallible statements. But I would say that there actually are new infallible statements that are taught. Are you of the same mind, Hasan?
Yes.
Okay, good. And there's actually the work from Bernard Lucien on religious liberty, where he argues that the teaching on religious liberty is actually infallibly taught at Vatican II. I don't know if you agree with that, Hasan.
Yes. Say it one more time just to make sure I'm not publicly committing myself to something I didn't understand.
Nope. Okay. Well, the Rosarium question, I already answered it earlier with the question on the will of God. But specifically, if you're talking about the name Creator, which might be what you're thinking about. So this kind of like adds on to what I said earlier about the will of God and how it terminates versus non. When it comes to specifically the name Creator is actually a relative name. So God is not eternally creator. It may sound weird, but when you think about what the word creator means, creator is a name which designates basically that there is posited the terminus itself. So like creation exists as dependent on God. So it's a relative name. And in that way, it's not a name which is eternal. What recommended philosophical work should I read before I study medieval scholasticism? This is a good question. It depends on exactly who you want to read. I'm assuming you're asking about reading St. Thomas. So I would suggest 2 philosophical works of St. Thomas. Let me go right here. So it is first on the principles of nature. So on the principles of nature, that gets you like the natural philosophy of St. Thomas pretty well. So thinking about things like act and potency, thinking about the four causes, things like that. And when it comes to the second work, it would be his work, Dante et Essential, or On Being in Essence. On Being in Essence, this gets you to some of the higher principles of metaphysics, and it also gets you into questions like genus, species, difference, like some of those logical questions. So those two works, well understood, they get you a lot of the sort of basics. And I mean, you could always just read a manual of philosophy. There's a million manuals of philosophy. I really like Father Gardeil, Gardeil. Yeah, his work, Introduction to Philosophy. It's 3 volumes. I find it to be very helpful. Hasan, for a few years, I've had an interest in liturgiology, but I never knew where to start. I know about Garanger, but where when it comes to modern writers, is Peter Kay pretty good?
So no, and I'm not going to elaborate on that, but start off with Fagerberg. He has like a liturgiological sort of like manual, just to understand each aspect of theology from a liturgical perspective, and to understand liturgy from various aspects. Also look for the online document, Papal Teaching on the Liturgy. That's a very good like initial one. There's another book you should find called The Catechism on the Liturgy, or the Catechism of the Liturgy. Those are all like classic, very, very good texts from fairly recently, but before the council. Except Fagerberg. He's more recent, but he's a trad. After that, if you want to go deeper into like the liturgical year, obviously, and the particular ceremonies, in English, your best bet is Garanger. He has 2 relevant books. One of them is the huge multi-volume text that you mentioned, the liturgical year, and the other is one called the Rites and Ceremonies of the Roman Rite, or something like that. That's a very, very good book as well. Then there's there's one more book that you should check out, and it's called The Sacramentary by Father Alphonse Schuster, right? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that's basically like a more in-depth, more scholarly, less devotional version of the liturgical year.
True. Okay, so is the moral permissibility of the death penalty a matter of de fide tenenda? No, that would be a matter of de fide credenda. It's something that's taught first and foremost by the ordinary and universal magisterium of the church. It's also something that's taught in the I don't know if credo would be the right word, but the what's the word of abjurations? Abjurations, I think, would be the right word. The abjurations of Innocent III. So no, it's de fide credenda, not de fide tenenda. De fide tenenda would apply more so to issues which are infallibly taught, but of a historical or a simply logical relationship to the deposit of faith. Yep. What about CIC 2267? Hasan and I actually were eventually planning on doing a whole stream about this. So I don't know if you want to give a little taste, Hasan, or if you just want to wait for the whole stream, but that is coming down the pipe.
I guess when I started looking into this in detail, because I've researched this before, but I've learned a lot since then. And over the last half a week, there was a day when I had a little scrap of spare time, which does not happen very often these days, thanks to the Tab Network. And I put half an hour aside to reinvestigate these topics and put together a compilation of the relevant texts from Pope Francis, JP2, and Prior Magisterium. And I sat down there and I got through 4 different texts from Pope Francis and Dignitas Infinita. And I sat there with the text and I thought, wait, why is anybody even misunderstanding this? This is just obvious if you have read like a tract on the distinction between the old law and the new law. If you've read anything about the distinction between the precept of perfection and the precepts of the natural law, or the law of nature and the law of the gospel. I got super confused by that, and then I realized that most of the commentary that's taking place is by people who are kind of like looking at it from a kind of weird askew sort of perspective. So all of this is kind of, I guess, like a introduction to what it was like to do the research for the stream that we're going to do. So yeah, definitely look forward to that. I'm gonna, once I get some spare time, I'm gonna put some serious research into making like a full presentation on the death penalty issue to show to basically justify the Ladaria documents, papally approved, Francis approved statement that Pope Francis did not intend to and did not contravene any traditional Catholic teaching on the death penalty. So it's going to be basically on the hermeneutic of continuity and the death penalty, which is a topic very important to me, very dear to my heart, precisely because I care a lot about the Old Testament and the value of the moral teaching of the Old Testament as kind of like acting as the foundation for the moral teaching of the New Testament and its intelligibility. And even very spiritually important episodes like the pericope of the adulterous woman make no sense if you take the absurd rupture position.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that will try to use the pericope adulterae as like John 8 and the woman caught in adultery. They'll try to use that as an argument against the permissibility of the death penalty, but that it literally gets the entire point of the story wrong. And I think this virtually contains the teaching of Pope Nicholas and the development itself. Because really, I mean, the point of the story is that we have a woman who does deserve, like it is just, to kill that woman. And if Christ had not sensed true repentance in her heart, he would have done that. And if you are not willing to say in your exegesis of that text that Christ would have stoned her, then that text makes no sense to you. And the whole teaching of this is that mercy exceeds justice when there are the proper dispositions.
It's crazy because it's like, oh, so he was merciful because he didn't do something she didn't deserve. Like,
I know it makes no sense.
So okay, so you see, okay. Let's say that I see a certain individual at Walmart, right? I see a certain individual at Walmart, and I don't smash his face in. That was mercy.
Yeah, actually, I was just, it's like the one clip that people took out of the hammers. Like if I see a certain person, and I get them with the hammer, it's like, yeah, when I was doing that, and I didn't smash people's heads in with a hammer, that was actually really merciful of me, because it makes no sense. Or like some people will read it as like the Old Testament being bad, which is kind of like the complete opposite of the message of the New Testament. Yeah, it's like that, and people will also use the issue of the permissibility of divorce in the Old Testament as an argument, and that one makes like literally negative sense. It's like, or like the slavery question, another example of something that makes literally zero sense. It's like, yeah, the whole message of the Old and New Testaments by permitting and regulating this behavior was actually that the people making and implementing these laws were sinning the whole time. It's like, like, where did you get this from? Like, yes, God was ordering a bunch of people to sin by their actions. It's extremely silly. And I think actually that it is like explicitly against the text of a lot of the documents that they like to cite. It's like, they're like, oh, this was, permissible during this time. And it's like, wait, didn't you just say that it was like never permissible? Like in your interpretation of this document? Anyways, yeah, I could crash out about this forever, but that's the story for a different day.
Swansona, if you can hear me, I remember that you deleted that live chat.
Yeah. Anyways, would you concede that Christ and the apostles authenticate the Old Testament and the New Testament? Yeah, of course. And there are actually certain New Testament books that are authenticated in the New Testament as well. But also, how would you argue that the apostles weren't always inspired when they preached from Holy Writ? Well, I mean, it's the fact that inspiration is not essential to the apostolate. Like the idea of the apostolate does not contain the notion of inspiration. It's like the same reason that I would say that the apostles weren't impeccable or anything like that, or were not immune from forms of practical error during their ministries. It's just not essential to the idea of the apostolate itself. And I think that. Yeah, I guess I think that the best argument for this would actually be the Council of Jerusalem. Like the type of debates that were going on in the Council of Jerusalem just shows that inspiration was not essential to the apostle. Like, how would you even make sense of this? Like, there was debate in the Council of Jerusalem, but actually they had this permanent charism of inspiration where they were like preaching inspired words back and forth in their disagreements. It doesn't make any sense.
Crazy.
Okay, so the first other, he sent a schizo question, but he sent money with it, so I have to read it. I was thinking more about my past question on demons turning the fetus into aliens by DNA edits. Hasan said no way, as fetuses would die, but he misses the point. Demons may manipulate DNA at atomic level to turn fetus into new man-sized insectoid. The human would cease so that a new being would take its place.
No.
Hasan asked why I said it was demons editing the DNA of pre-flood fetus, since it could happen now too. The reason is that doing it pre-flood means alien society would have grown by now. Humans would be materially descended from Adam. This is a real Adam to alien pipeline. Okay, thank you for the super chats.
That's really cool. Thanks for feeding my friends' kids.
Does the magisterium teach limited atonement? No. Well,
limited in its efficiency.
Yeah, I mean there's actually two dogmas when it comes to the universality of the atonement. One is that it's sufficient for everybody, which is like even most Protestants, if you kind of press them on it, they would concede this, and it's pretty classical formulation. It's even taken by somebody like John Owen, who famously wrote the work against universal atonement. But there's one, the sufficiency, and there's also to the intent. So like there was an actual intent for universality, which is expressed in the universal ordering of man to their final end, and then also the various different helps which are given by sufficient grace, which pour out to all men and come from the incarnation in the supernatural order. So yeah, and then it's limited obviously in its efficacy, not on the part of the thing itself, because in itself it's unlimited, but rather on the part of its application. Do you want to meet up and talk about the controllers of the U.S.? No. What's the difference between what's the difference between doctrine?
Come to one of our live conferences, and we'll get a drink afterwards.
Yeah, it was travel to the UK for Monkey Land, and Hasan will.
We might, if the Tabnet stuff takes off, we may be doing some real life events next year. So if any Wagnerites, any dedicated Wagnerites in here want to help, see if you can find venues for us.
Yeah, if you want to be a true patriot, I will travel to the place you are in. Hasan will travel to the place you are in. We will do a conference. We will raise money. We will have car bombs afterwards. It'll be awesome. We'll have a lot of fun with it.
Okay, car bombs not meaning like our ones.
I mean, well, I don't have to explain that. I'm neither Irish nor Arab, but you, I see, have to explain that. Yes.
Okay, so weekly the Irish also needs to be clarified real quick when you say that.
Yeah. Mr. Weekly Shorts, he said my message disappeared. It didn't disappear. I see all the stuff on my end. So I don't know if like a mod deleted or like whatever, but I still see all the stuff on my end. I don't know what occurred there, but what's the difference between doctrine, dogma, an article of faith, and ecclesiastical faith? And what is the deposit of faith? Okay. So this is a very good question. Although there's like somebody, and there have been literally entire books written on this, but somebody could write an entire book also about how each one of these terms have developed throughout the history of theology. Because like there's certain eras of theology where they use dogma in a different sense than we use it currently. There's certain authors that actually use it in multiple different senses. So like literally like a linguistic study could be written on this, but like contemporarily, usually what we mean by each one of these terms. So doctrine, that simply means like doctrina, that something taught. So doctrine usually means something which is taught either in general, So like a doctrine in the general sense could even apply to a dogma, article of faith, etc., or specifically something that is taught in a non-infallible way. So when we talk about something as Doctrina Catholica means that it's taught by the church in an encyclical letter or something of that nature, but it's not taught in an infallible way. Like that's kind of a general way in which it's used, especially in the manuals of theology. Dogma, on the other hand, is usually reserved for something that is taught by the church to be of faith, so of the primary object of the magisterium, which is matters of faith and morals given by public revelation. So something specifically which is taught to be of the faith in an infallible mode. And then you have an article of faith. Article of faith is specifically those most general teachings which are intended for the entirety of the faithful, whether the wise or the simple and unlettered. So like something, that is very niche. Like there are very specific propositions that are dogmas that are generally not taught in the church. Like the general faithful are not going to know these things. It's normally going to be like theologians who are going to be really concerned with these things. So an article of faith, these are usually going to be those things contained in the creeds, especially the four main articles of the faith, which are that God is, rewards those who are just, is a Trinity, and that the incarnation occurred. Those are the general four, although the work of Christ, which is contained in the creeds, is also explicated in this way. And then ecclesiastical faith. So this is a controversial term, but usually what is meant by it contemporaneously, and this is the sense in which most theologians now are going to accept it. It was contained in the CDF's commentary on the Professio Fidei. The ecclesiastical faith simply means an assent to something which is infallibly taught by the church, but it's not infallibly taught by the church to be formally revealed. So this would be, for example, something like the fact that Pope Leo is the Pope, the fact that Vatican II is a ecumenical council, et cetera, et cetera. So rather than being de fide credenda, which is of faith to be believed, it's de fide tenenda, of faith to be held. But usually what you need to remember is you just need to remember the three paragraphs in the profession of faith. So those things which are de fide credenda, so dogmas, de fide tenenda, so those things which are taught to be held by ecclesiastical faith, infallibly taught things which are not, taught to be formally revealed. And then you have the third category, which is those things which are doctrine, which are given what's called obsequium religiosum, or religious submission is kind of the best word that we've come up for that one. But I have a video. It's called something about the magisterium. I can't remember what everything you need to know about the magisterium. Something like that. Let me see. Scholastic answers magisterium. It's called The Magisterium Explained, from about a month ago, and I take like an hour and a half and explain all of these. So I put a lot of time into it. So if you're super, super interested in this, have fun. Okay, this might be a Hasan question. Why did Pope St. Paul VI get rid of the tonsure? Any thoughts on it? Well, Hasan already has the tonsure.
Yeah, almost.
Do you have thoughts on this, Hasan?
When he get rid of the tonsure? No, he got rid of the obligation to get the tonsure. A priest who doesn't have the tonsure chose not to be tonsured. A monk who doesn't get the tonsure chose not to be tonsured. The point is that it's a he made it a choice. Now, why did he make it a choice? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I've actually tried to look into this because I think that the tonsure has great biblical foundations and is fantastic, even if it's not of like strictly apostolic origin. I think it's a very helpful and very symbolically and do I say this? Almost like a pedagogically useful thing to have in society. So I don't know. I don't know why, but those are my thoughts. That tonsuring is very good, and I wish that more of it was happening. Generally speaking, my view on clerical dress and tonsure is like very late first millennium. I think that was the peak, and I think that when we started getting too much drip, it was because we were ruining everything.
Dude, there's actually some pretty good questions in here. I'm glad that Hassan's yapping, so I
Yeah,
have time to go through the chat and
some of them have been really good. So every now and then I've been like, that's impressive, and then sometimes I've been looking at it and thinking, wow, why do these people exist? And then there's other people, they ask questions and it's like, dude, how do you watch this channel and you haven't yet learned the lesson that you're not supposed to use YouTube to learn your religion? You're supposed to use YouTube to clarify questions or to ask for reading. You have to read books or you should get out of here. Sorry. Like Leo the 13th wrote the papal document Sapientiae Christianae, explicitly telling you guys that it's like quasi necessary for your salvation for you to study in accordance with your means and in accordance with your condition. That means actually studying. That does not mean I kind of don't like reading and I feel a little bit ADHD because I have a TikTok brain rotted psyche, so I'm not going to try.
me.
Yeah.
I have TikTok brain rot psyche.
The difference is that you come to me like being like, no, I want to read more books. I have too many practical things to do. And these guys are like, I wish I wasn't retarded so that I could read books, but I'm scrolling on TikTok for 16 hours a day and then sleeping.
Okay,
My
but you
parents
learn
are
a lot.
asking
You learn a
me-
lot of stuff on TikTok, though,
My parents are asking me why I'm pooping myself.
bruh. They won't answer. They won't. Dude, you know what he? Oh wait, is that a picture of Palamos? It is. Where is the filioque taught in Scripture or in the Cappadocians? This is a good point. I've been destroyed.
Yeah, Christian
I
B.
definitely
Wagner
haven't done
never
two
made a
moderated
video.
debates and like 24 videos on this. I have no answer to your question.
Oh my goodness.
The TikTok diorite has beaten me. The lion the lion does not fear. The lion does not fear. He simply flees. I flee from the diorite TikTok.
What you just did, Mr. Palamas, is so dumb that it's like a memorialist coming in here and saying, "Where is the sacrifice of the mass in the Bible?" Like,
True. Okay, I have like 30 questions ahead of this. Also, that's like another reason. I mean, if I had no other questions, I might actually touch on this, but I have some notes on.
hey mods, can you stop banning more people, please? They're making me uncomfortable.
Hey mods, can you unban all people just so we can have it be like the worst chat ever? I kind of like that sometimes. I like some chaos in the chat. It drives engagement.
Sometimes.
You know, everyone's just like seething and crashing out in the chat at each other and like fighting. It, you know, makes for a nice like brawl. It's like a rowdy sort of like bar type, you know, like Weimar Republic bar with people with all their political ideas like shouting at each other and like having fights. You know,
someone
preaching.
ban this probably overly melanated Byzantine, please. I'm logging in. So
A friend of mine says the Pope can be wrong, and we must discern for ourselves what's right when it comes to Scripture and tradition. Private judgment? ? Okay, so the Pope can be wrong. He's correct about that, but we have to remember that not everything the Pope says is something which is even asking for our assent. So, like for example, the Pope can write a book as a private theologian. This is something that Benedict XVI, as an example, did a lot. So the Pope writes a book as a private theologian. He is not in writing this meaning for us to all be bound by whatever he is saying. And because if you are the Pope and you have the plenitude of authority, you can also choose to speak with lesser authority. Like, for example, when you become I'm assuming you're a male, when you become a father and you speak to your children, sometimes you are telling your children to do something. You're using the plenitude of your power, your paternal power and authority. At other times, you're simply trying to give good advice or suggestions, or maybe even trying to bring up something that you might discuss as a point of debate, right? So you're not always intending to use all of your power and authority. So the Pope is very similar. He could write something in a private book. Maybe he's giving an interview, like the recent example with Pope Leo. There's a lot of examples of this. And even when he is speaking in a document of some sort or in a situation where he is intending to teach with authority, in these circumstances, not everything in that document is meant to bind. So, for example, there are a lot of papal documents which use the text from Genesis 3:15. He will crush the head of the serpent versus she will crush the head of the serpent. In this, it's used as a matter of explanation and argument. But that does not necessarily mean that a Catholic theologian couldn't take a different opinion about the text critical questions or the questions of Hebrew translation, stuff like that, because they're merely appending this to what they mean to bind us on. So you have to keep those distinctions in mind, and also remember the question of, okay, can the Pope be wrong? Sometimes he is teaching with the plenitude of his authority, and the degree in which he speaks in a matter of authority is the degree in which God has promised to give the protection of the Holy Spirit. So if he speaks with all of his authority, obviously the church needs to be protected from error in this way, and he will be completely protected. This is called infallibility. Sometimes he speaks with lesser authority, and there is lesser protection, right? So there could be a more or less likelihood of error depending on the character of the document. Okay, this makes sense from intrinsic reasons, right? It all follows from all those principles that we need to read about. But the question of because he can be wrong, so there's actually I think a false assumption here. The question, there basically is a syllogism here. The Pope can be wrong, therefore we must discern for ourselves when he is right. That's invalid. Your parents can be wrong about your birthday. Does that mean you must discern for yourselves the day in which you are born? No, because when it comes to matters of authority, especially those who might have an aptitude, or like the Pope, somebody who has been given certain gifts, there is not going to generally be the assumption of error. There could be, like, let's say your parents say you were born on this date, and then you look at your birth certificate and it says that date. When you have, evidence to the contrary, you might question whether they're right or wrong. But the assumption that you must necessarily discern whether they're right or wrong is a false assumption that you're making. Okay? I hope that makes a lot of sense, because a lot of times what people will do is when they answer questions like this, they'll kind of just give you the answer, but you need to understand like the intrinsic logic behind it. That's how if you're asking how you become a theologian, or at least become somebody who would theologize. I'm not a theologian. I'm not approved by the church. Become somebody who theologizes and do theology. This is how you do it. You kind of have to explain and reason out things from their intrinsic principles and why this is the case, draw the consequences from it, analogies, in order to better understand it. So I hope that's a good full answer for you. Do you think it would be actually prudent for the Holy Father to bring back the papal tiara and the other papal regalia lost in the last few decades? I don't know what Hasan thinks about this, but especially with the papal tiara, I would say no, because the papal tiara is a certain symbol of temporal preeminence that really, practically speaking, is kind of silly to incessantly assert upon in the modern era. Obviously, we know that the Pope has indirect temporal authority over all things, and if anybody's curious, I can draw out what that means. It might be in my video that will eventually be coming out against Redeemed Zoomer. I'm going to talk about a lot of papal authority and civil society. There's a lot to say about that. But obviously, this isn't meant to deny that. It's kind of meant to show that there is a certain essential connection between the papal tiara and a very direct way of temporal governance that kind of is very lamely set forth by, you have like 3 square feet in the middle of Rome that you're kind of technically in charge of as like the monarch of Vatican City.
I think the reason I disagree is because I think that there are a lot of theological, practical, and spiritual problems that are coming out of people thinking that the theological basis, like the nature of the church, the foundation in the nature of the church for the claim to temporal power, has been shelved and has been concluded to have never really been there, that it was a mistake. And I think that leads to a change in the character of the zeal of the Christian people, and also it changes, like Lagrange says when he talks about religion and the state. I think that it's kind of the error he talks about there, when we lose sight of the end to be proposed and actually pursued, and then that changes the character of everything we do between now and the end to be pursued. So that's my concern. I think that our even our apologetics should in some way feature the political mandate of the church.
Nice.
I've become a lot more like emphatic about the integralism stuff over the last couple of years.
If there are acts that would only be moral if a person were aware, it was grave. Should someone be okay? So there's a distinction that needs to be made here. When it comes to these acts, you don't need to make the speculative judgment in reflection. Hey, I remember learning in moral theology that this is grave matter, and I am committing it. You just need to understand that there is some sort of unique and particularly grave, or basically particularly strong opposition to the end of that thing. So, like, you don't have to speculatively think that, punching your dad in the face is grave matter if you know that that is strongly against his dignity as your father, for example. So, continuing, say someone isn't aware the Council of Baltimore forbids waltzing. Should someone be told this and thereby put in a situation to reject it? Question mark.
Well, that's not a one size fits all. Do you think so? So, for example, when Christ exposed the apostles to the teaching in John 6 on the Eucharist and predestination, and a bunch of people walked off, and some people remained, that's partially because of the predilection of God. We can explain it by the predilection of God, but we can also explain it according to the differences in disposition preceding the antecedent predispositions in the people. So, in the same way, you don't, when somebody comes to like OCIA day one, you don't then go and have a conversation with them about like wife beating or something. Like, I don't know. That just seems like a really stupid thing to talk about, right? Like, you don't go and say like, oh, did you know that there was this one? I'm not. You don't go up to them and say, hey, I'm not saying what my opinion is, but did you know that St. Thomas Aquinas said X? It's like, why would you even bring that up? There's a lot of very like dumb things that people will do because they think that in the course of trying to evangelize to somebody, they need to prove every single moral doctrine of the church from day one. Doesn't make sense. Second thing, I think your question actually reflects really well on a video Christian made before on Christopher West. And the thumbnail was like, Christopher West leads millions of souls to hell or something like that. What was it again?
You just want me to get into trouble today, don't you?
Yeah.
You're just trying. You are strongly trying to get me in trouble today.
But let me explain why I think that there was a lot of debate like on the internet over that thumbnail and video title, right? And basically, what's interesting about this is that people were saying in the comments, hey, why would you put a title like that on the video, considering that we're talking about people who don't even know these things are sins, so they wouldn't be sinning when they do them. And it misses the point. And this is very important to answer your question, the guy with the mouse profile picture, okay? If someone has a habit of an act that's in fact immoral, but they don't know that, they don't commit a sin formally, so they don't actually commit a sin. However, that act is objectively bad for their soul, and it objectively causes some kind of damage to the soul that will lead them to the committing of acts that are wrong, that they know are wrong, because it inflicts that damage upon the soul. So if you say, well, wouldn't it be better if we just didn't know anything was grave? Because that's what that would entail. The entire pedagogy of God in Scripture becomes more damaging than salutary. But no, God helps us by teaching us about right and wrong, precisely because he teaches us how to avoid sin by teaching us all of those things that are objectively wrong that we wouldn't otherwise know are wrong. Furthermore, society requires good customs. Christian and I were talking about this recently. You just released a Substack article about something related to this.
Follow the Substack, by the way. If you don't follow the Substack, you're awful.
Yep. It's very important for people to understand that matters of good custom are extremely difficult to justify by natural reason alone. It's possible, but it requires a lot of expertise that very rarely are known by a single person in order for him to synthesize and explain them. Rather, it's better to just take the good customs indicated by the Holy Fathers and by sacred scripture and by the exegetical tradition and just implement them and accept that they are wiser than our intuitions and our socialized ideas. And just implement them and create a culture based on them and trust revelation and trust the church that they are wiser than whatever we can come up with by ourselves.
True. Do you answer questions that aren't super chats? Yes, but they just have to be good questions. Like, I'm just forced to answer all the other ones. Some are good, some are not good, but I just, it's one of those things.
Yep.
With regard to Lofton, I was referring to his recent live stream one day ago. Can the church doctrine change? Here's what the church really says. What am I, a clown here for your amusement? Yeah, that was true. That was kind of amusing, but let me see. No, I did not watch the video. Let me pull it up.
I don't think I've watched a Michael Lofton video when it's come out, and not when I hear that it contains something really weird.
39 minutes. Yeah, I'm just not going to be able to watch all 39 minutes. Let me see. What sources are you using right now? Let me see. Oh, he's got his own website up. Vatican.va, the Profession of Faith.
Cool.
Maybe he's just talking about something is now being defined.
Maybe he's just saying authentic teaching can change. Can
he's
be
going to Lumen Gentium and explaining. Yeah, I'm assuming he's just talking about how now. Oh, now he has a book, Vatican II, up. I don't know. I'm just not gonna comment on it because I haven't watched it. Is there anything like I'll look at the chat. Is there anything particularly egregious that you heard that you were wondering about? If we found out other animals, e.g. cows and dolphins, undeniably had intellect, then on monergism, would it mean they also descend from Adam, maybe hybrids? Thank you for the super chat. Where can I read John of St. Thomas?
Why? Religiously stuff. Why do you still ask questions like this after 2 years?
He's so real for that.
What is wrong with you?
Crash out. Yeah. My advice, if you want to read John of St. Thomas, you should learn Latin. I know there are a lot of people who are just be like, I'm reading John of St. Thomas right now in this like ChatGPT translation that 13-year-old in this Discord put together. Resist the temptation, okay, buddy? Resist the temptation. Just take the year. Just be like, just like see that there's a bunch of people saying stuff that you can't understand. And then after your year of learning Latin, you will understand that it's actually they who do not understand what they are saying. And you, like, while they were writing, you were, sharpening your sword. What's the meme from Reddit? Where it's like, while all these people were, oh crap, what is it? Oh yeah, while you were dancing, I was studying the blade. While they were yapping about John of St. Thomas, you were studying Latin. You will be so far ahead of them. You will realize that they don't know what they're talking about, and you are the only one who knows. So
there are unironically like
resist.
There are unironically like 25-year-old guys on Discord who are huddling around to read like AI translations done by a Kurdish girl from Germany who's like 13, 14 years old. It's just embarrassing.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there's actually something that Hasan said to me a few weeks ago that I found to be very important. He said that I have had false understandings of things because like things that I found to be very important. I had false understandings of these things because I read a mistranslation of St. Thomas on something. And you see it all the time. Like I use Aquinas.cc. Most of my St. Thomas reading unless like I'm in a hurry or something. I'm reading it in Latin. One, because it just makes me a better Latin reader, and I always need to do that. But two, because literally when you read things in English, like unironically, like technical terms are being used so frequently in Scholastic authors, you just miss things. And when it comes to Scholastic authors, their Latin is usually pretty easy. So if you dedicate 6 months to a year to it, like very strongly, like you will be able to, start perhaps not well, but you're going to be able to start understanding enough of something to where you can do your extensive reading with Scholastic texts. So just put in the effort. I know it sucks, but if you're at the level where you are prepared to understand what John of St. Thomas is saying, then you should invest in learning Latin. Will we be able to shapeshift in glorified bodies? Thank you for the super chat. Is the 3 days of darkness credible? I don't know. What do you think about it, Hasan?
No, not really.
Okay. Which catechism of the church should I read? Trent, Pope Pius X, the Baltimore Catechism, or the newest? You should read all of them plus the compendium of the catechism.
It's if you're actually new and you need to read a catechism, and that's why you're asking, rather than just wanting to see like the order of truths, like the order of presentation of truths. If you're new, read the Baltimore Catechism or the compendium. Anything else isn't really going to help you much. And even then, don't read them alone. Make sure you're in a community with actually knowledgeable people that you can frequently ask questions to. One of the things that I've seen that's been most common among Zoomers that actually try to read, you're already, you're above the level of the people who aren't reading at all. But at that point, when you're actually trying to read, is that there's a weird mixture of laziness and arrogance where you see a word that you kind of think that you know what it means, but you've never seen it defined, and you just go with your gut assumption and keep reading. That's a really bad idea. Always ask. If you look at a word and it occurs to you that you've never seen the word defined and you don't actually know what it means, go and ask. Don't like hubristically just keep reading. That's the most important thing. So read the Baltimore Catechism or the compendium and make sure that you've got a good friend group where you can ask important questions frequently.
True. I'm just making sure oh my gosh. It's all so tiresome.
It really is.
I heard you were laughing on Palamas, but your own church venerates him. Anti-filioque with Palamas and St. Thomas. Actually, yeah, St. Thomas
on the does not venerate.
My church does not venerate Palamas. I don't know what you're talking about.
Someone else's church that I happen to be in communion with.
This is true. Yes. Someone else's church that I happen to be in communion with venerates him, and I don't like that. And I think that that's against higher teachings than they justify it on the basis of. It's really not that difficult. Like, local churches can venerate people that I think shouldn't be venerated. Like, there's literally nothing in Catholic theology that precludes the fact that I could just not like that. Like, I don't know why these people, they try to make these critiques. They don't even think about it. It's just like a dunk for them. It's propaganda. That's what it's just like, weird propaganda where they don't like to think too well. And that's like something they could just throw out there to just like latch onto. It's like the same people do that against Eastern Orthodoxy as well. People do that against Protestantism. People do that against Islam. People do that against Judaism. People do that, but you just like throw stuff out there, and it's a lot easier than actually thinking about something.
Yeah, mods, can you ban this guy, by the way? Thank you.
Oh, bro. Dude, you don't have to ban him.
He's so annoying.
Okay, but like annoying people. St. Thomas was a better patrologist than Palamas was. If you don't like St. Thomas, why is he on your profile picture, dude? Why? Okay, so you called him Aquinas rather than St. Thomas, but you literally have a profile picture with St. Thomas on it with a halo around his head, meaning he's a saint. You are venerating St. Thomas in your profile picture, Mr. Anti-Filioque. Awful. Okay, so if we could bring back long dead skeletons to life via retuition through nanotech, would this mean God brings the dead soul back or make a new one too? Okay,
what's retissuing? Like retissuing them?
Retissuing.
Retissuing?
I don't know. This seems like a troll at this point. Animate the retissued body.
Yeah, he did mean retissuing. Okay. What if we retissued? Could we reanimate it? That's actually a good question. In disguise. No, you can't, because you can't actually like provide life back to a like an amalgamation of living cells. You just can't. You wouldn't be able to like bring back a principle of unity for all of the parts. They would just be arranged.
Mm. True. I keep getting YouTube ads. I have one question. What is the most best read? Most best read?
The most best read? What color are you?
I don't want to make fun of you. I don't. What is the most best read to understand Thomism regarding the Trinity, ADS, etc., for apologetics?
For apologetics, that was the worst part.
I'm not going to make fun of you for saying best read, but I will make fun of you for saying for apologetics at the end. You should. I don't mean to sound glib here, but you should really understand those things because you love God and you want to know Him better, and then maybe down the line you figure out trying to do apologetics with other people. Do apologetics, do polemics, like that takes a degree of maturity, spiritually, intellectually, morally, etc. That you see a lot of people out there when they try to jump into it without it, they ruin themselves in many different ways. Some people ruin themselves financially by trying to get into this as their job, and they just crash out. Or some people ruin themselves morally. Some people ruin themselves spiritually. People leave the church over this all the time. You should first study something because you love God and you want to know Him better, and then from that, Saint Thomas uses a saying that his purpose is to basically pass on the fruits of contemplation to others. So in order to do apologetics and to pass on those fruits of contemplation, you have to contemplate the truth. Like that's a prerequisite right there. So I guess that's all I'll say. Read Thomas Joseph White.
Also, like Thomas Joseph White has a section where he explains like the proper motive for studying theology. So look out for that.
Can you discuss whether the placement of the stigmata on saints is dependent on the respective saints' understanding where the position of the nails on Christ were, that is, by cultural influence? I mean, God speaks to somebody after the mode in which they can understand and comprehend, and which is why you see like ethnic or racial differences in saints sometimes during apparitions. So God isn't going to have these sorts of phenomena in ways in which people can't understand. Like that wouldn't make any sense. So yeah, I mean, it's culturally dependent in that way. Sure. Is there a minimum fermentation requirement, like 1% alcohol of the must for it to be valid matter? I don't know if oh no, you're Latinx. Okay. That explains it. I was just wondering because there's a lot of typos in these questions. Of the must for it to be valid matter, I read the Summa on it, but my knowledge of Aristotelian physics didn't allow me to understand it. I don't know. I'm not an expert in liturgical law. I'm sure there's an answer only written by somebody much smarter than me, but I don't know the minimum fermentation degree for valid matter for the Mass. Sorry. Is Muhammad the final prophet? No. I'm planning on attending a Marianist university to study theology. Awesome. Is there anything I should know or read beforehand? Cool Marianist things. Do you know anything about the Marianists, Hasan?
No, I don't actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. Neither of us know about the Marianists. I apologize. I could ask if hand-holding outside of marriage is sinful, but I'll just say hi instead. God bless you and your family. Leo 9. Hi, Chop 007. I appreciate it. If I am Protestant who truly cannot discern what the true church is, despite knowing Roman Catholic Church claims, am I damned? It feels like I'm playing Russian roulette with God. I'm sincerely trying to figure all of this out. I actually have an interview coming out tomorrow on Cameron Riker's channel where I talk about this for like an hour. But I can give you the long and short of it, although I would suggest that you check that one out. basically when it comes to these matters, you obviously have an understanding of like the general law. Like, you have to obey God and accept the religion which he has revealed. Like, you understand this, right? That is a principle which is going to guide all of your discovery. Is you want to go to the place which God has commanded in order that you may know and love God and to serve him properly. But there's obviously the particular law of where is this? There's an ignorance of the law which can occur, which is not operative in this case. There's also an ignorance of the fact which can occur. And the perception of this fact can be obscured. Like, you don't know. The question that you're asking about this particular fact is the Catholic Church, this church which God has established, the supernatural society which you have to join, through which they claim the revelation through which you need. That's a particular question that you need to answer. And because you understand the claims, you understand these rival claims, and you obviously have a moral hesitation about this, you are obliged to do what is in your powers to resolve this doubt. Like, when you have a doubt about serious matters, like an example for a Catholic might be, you have a doubt over whether you were validly baptized or not. Like, you need to resolve that doubt. It would be sinful if you were not to resolve this doubt. But if you do everything in your power, you ask your parents, you try to look for the video, you look at analogous cases, you ask the priest if you know the priest, all of these things in order to try to figure this out. You ask family members, and there is nothing that you can do to resolve the question. Then you're not going to be held guilty for simply doing everything in your power and not having the tools at hand to resolve the question. So that's a sort of long and short of it, but there's a longer answer that I have coming out tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. Anything to say to this, Hasan?
I think you gave a good answer. The only thing that I would add is that you're making a big mistake by thinking that this is about like just studying all the arguments. God doesn't lie. So if you fast and you pray and beg God for faith, if you do receive faith, what you receive faith in won't be false, because God doesn't lie. So just you need to have more confidence in God teaching and clarifying, and less reliance on your own natural diligence.
True.
Like what happened with St. Thomas comments on this in the John 6 commentary, when he's talking about how Peter said, "To whom else are we supposed to go? You alone have the words of life." He says that St. Peter came to this through faith rather than by natural diligence, whereas the ones who left were relying on their natural diligence. So don't be one of the people who leaves.
You tweeted that believing St. Bellarmine is damned disproves Protestantism. I mean, okay. Distinguo. Insofar as the sort of like most foundational dogmatic Protestants, foundational theologians claim that he was for certain damned for X, Y, and Z reason. Okay, that qualification at hand. But what about pious figures like Baxter? I can't see how he would be damned, even though he wrote contra the faith. I mean, I will begin with this because I have, and this is a truth that Catholics must hold, I do not have good hope that anybody outside of the church is justified in remaining in that state. I don't have any good hope for that. We can conjecture here and there, but ultimately, I think without access to a person and without intimate access to understanding their spiritual life, I can't really conjecture on this point whether perhaps they were one of the people who did have sanctifying grace. So I don't know. It's entirely possible that you have figures, and this happens a lot. You have figures that are simply repeating what they hear in their sources. Like Baxter obviously was aware of certain points of genuine mystical tradition from his, I would say his predecessors, but that would assume he's in continuity with them. But people who were pious, who went before, like, for example, reading St. Bernard or St. Augustine or sacred scripture. So it is entirely possible that he was somebody who was simply replicating what he heard from other people. It's also possible, there's a chance, it's an objective possibility that he was somebody who was speaking from his own experience. I just don't know. So I can't really give a good answer to that question.
There was a related but kind of controversial pill about this that you sent me in French the other day.
I sent you in French the other day?
Yeah, you sent me a French title to a book, a monograph that you found about that talks about like how do we assess the
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one I sent with you and Gideon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the possibility of mystical phenomena outside of the church, that is like all theologians, because the mystical life is virtually contained in sanctifying grace. Like, they will all say that it is possible to have like the objective principles for the mystical life present outside of the church, insofar as we say that there's a possibility outside of external communion with the church, there's possibility for sanctifying grace there. But what a lot of theologians will bring up is the fact that when it comes to the strong development of the mystical life, that this requires so much external direction that comes only in Catholicism, that it is morally impossible that it exists outside of the church. And others will disagree with that assessment. But yeah, I'm just kind of yapping now.
I think it's going to come to a point within the next couple of decades where claiming that there isn't habitual, authentic teaching on this stuff is just going to get a little bit silly. Yeah.
I don't know, dude. Distinguo.
I don't think there's a distinguo for this one.
There is a distinguo for this one. I won't give my thoughts. I won't give my thoughts because
no,
I'm just a silly little YouTuber. I don't have.
I think I would probably end up almost entirely agreeing with you. But the thing is that this is the kind of topic where when you try to give like an actual theological response, the political sides on both sides of the spectrum in the church are just going to get mad. Both sides.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Father Pellegrino Ernetti's Chronovisor? I don't have any thoughts about it.
What's that? What's a chronovisor?
A purported device invented by Italian priest that could allegedly view and record past events like a time television by capturing residual light and sound energy. He said he witnessed the crucifixion of Christ with it.
Okay, we need to kill this guy.
He's a priest.
Yeah, the canon law changed in 1983.
Actually, the death penalty is inadmissible and contrary to human dignity.
That's when it's administered by the state.
And yeah, private killings are better. What is a healthy balance between weighing the strength of each religion's arguments and just assenting to the faith one feels called to? Okay, so
there's only one faith. That's the first thing.
Okay, but I was just going to say there's a question here. Are you a Catholic? Because if you're a Catholic, there's no reason for you to call into doubt, even methodically, the truth of the Catholic religion. That's just that is a sin against faith. If you're not a Catholic, then you have an obligation of conscience to determine the different motives that may come with distinct claims to divine revelation, and to not only form a probable but a certain conscience for which of these religions is divinely revealed by considering what are called the motives of credibility. If you want like a quick read on this, you can just look up the Catholic Encyclopedia Motives of Credibility, and it should give you a good rundown.
Also, this whole the feels called to bit already reduces faith to a sentiment, and you should be very careful about that. If you believe that God exists, then it logically follows that God is able to teach and not just provide certain persuasive sentiments. So if God can actually teach, if God can actually give truth to your mind, can cause you to know truths, then he isn't just giving you certain inclinations to believe in this thing or that thing, but he can actually give you truths insofar as you begin to know them. And that's what faith is. So if God exists, he has the power to do this. And the whole idea of faith is requesting from God that he do this for you. And he really does do this. But you have to dispose yourself to that grace. You can't say, God, give me faith, and then do nothing about your life that like makes an offering of self to God whatsoever. So you have to dispose yourself to the reception of grace.
Bruh, Kayak completely destroyed me with this one. Kayak wins. It's so over.
That's true, but like, you knew about Austin Woodbury, not Austin Woodbury as a Morist.
True, distinguo. Have you met any
Like,
converts who go into Molinism, Hasan?
I know a bunch about Manuel Doronzo. I don't know anything about the OMI.
True.
Have you met any converts drawn to Molinism? The converts that I come across are usually drawn to other errors.
Hasan, is getting plastic surgery to looks max immortal sim?
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah, according to the principles that are derived from that one Pius XII discussion with plastic surgeons, yeah, I think so. I think if it's he says if it's to remedy like an objective defect according to objective principles, then it's fine.
Yeah,
like a defect. But if it's just like, oh, like I think I could stand to look a little bit better, and it's weighing on my psychological, like,
yeah, but that would just be
self-esteem.
increasing appearance due to vanity. Wouldn't that simply be a venial?
No, because the means chosen to that end are grave, basically.
I don't know. I'd have to be convinced of this.
Not everything. Yeah, well, of course, because not everything done to the same end is equally bad, because some things are more some means are more grave and more drastic.
The teenage traditionalist, I will eventually. I highlighted your question above because it's a good question. I just have to get through a lot of them. Will you make a video reacting / responding to non-classical theism? No, I just don't like that stuff. How would you explain dude? I'm literally like an hour behind on these questions. This is so bad. How do you explain the relation between intellect / will and the chemical reactions within the brain? So, like, if one would say X or Y thought action solely due to the chemicals, how would one reply? Well, I mean, you have something called a will. I mean, the physical reactions, they do like dispose you towards certain acts. Like, let's say one has, a proclivity towards, Diet Coke. It doesn't necessarily mean that one is incapable of choosing Diet Coke or like Diet Pepsi. Like, that would be a material disposition. Or, I mean, there are certain cases in which one could have, certain physical ailments that are so intense that they actually drive one to commit a certain act, and that would be a case of an involuntary act, and it wouldn't. I mean, that's not the ordinary though.
It also gets the order slightly wrong, because the chemical changes can be due to the motion of the intellect and will as well. So there's a book on Thomistic psychology by a scholar called Brennan, Brennan, and in that book he goes over the relationship between Thomistic psychology and modern neuroscience. So that would be interesting for you.
Wagner, when Jesus said he was on earth to not remove the law but to fulfill, what he meant by law, and what was the mode of this fulfillment? I mean, by the law he meant the old covenant. At least, I don't know, Hasan might say actually. I agree with this reading of it. But I mean, to fulfill the law is to I mean, on the one hand, there's like a personal fulfillment of the law that occurs, whereas Christ kept the justice of the law by obeying all of its precepts in its perfection. There's also like a fulfillment of the law in the sense that everything which was contained in the law, he in a higher way has not only completed in himself, like, for example, the sacrifices compared with his own sacrifice, but also preached in the evangelical law. And you can see this throughout the Gospels of our Lord, instituting a higher way of life, which is directed by a supernatural rather than a simply natural principle.
It's interesting because it makes the law of nature and then the law of scripture, the Mosaic law added onto it, a kind of pledge for something more given in the future, and that's the fulfillment, the law of the gospel, the law that actually provides the means of itself being followed, whereas the others only provide what is to be followed and not the means.
True. This is a good question, Gideon. Tyler, I'm sorry. For like the first hour, I was highlighting all of the non-super chat questions that I like, but I'm still like 20 questions behind right now, and it's getting kind of late, so I'm just gonna answer out the rest of the super chats. Sorry, guys. Apologies, but I can't stream for like 5 hours. Was talking to an Eastern Catholic seminarian. Is the standard of sainthood different? Oh, wait, we already answered this basically.
I'd like to just quickly add to that it is a matter of local versus universal, not East versus West. That's very confused. Like, for example, my patron saint isn't canonized. He's not even a blessed, not by universal, like not in any universal cause. A letter was sent to the Pope by a king before the Reformation, asking for the canonization of, or the cause for the canonization of Alfred the Great, my patron. But he was locally venerated in England and only before the Reformation. So he has like a historic cultus, but that doesn't affect anything to do with universal canonization. Universal canonization depends on the universal authority promulgating a decision about the matter. Local bishops can say who they think is a saint and who, that's up to them. That doesn't make it true or false. It just means that that's what your local authority commits you to.
How much authority would local synods have, especially in comparison to things like ecumenical councils? When it comes to local synods, they are just like, non-infallible papal teachings or non-infallible teachings of ecumenical councils. Like they require obsequium religiosum, kind of like your local bishop as well. They're just not done in a definitive manner that requires irrevocable assent, and it can be withheld for serious reasons.
Although they often came to be universally received, though.
Yeah,
like the ancient local canons on
like the Augustinian councils.
Yeah, and also the time for breaking the fast became universalized, and it became received into canon law, and then it became the basis for the universal laws that were made later. So there's a lot of cases where local councils, way after the fact or shortly after the fact, become received throughout the rest of the church, or at least throughout the rest of the Western church, or they become received in Rome, and by way of them being received in Rome, everybody else picks them up because they want to copy Rome. It used to happen a lot.
The issue there is that authority becomes circular from the church declaring itself as authoritative. Well, the church doesn't get its authority from itself. The church gets its authority from Christ. So, is liking Savonarola a LARP? No, Savonarola is awesome. Actually, Saint Pier Giorgio Frassati, he named himself as a tertiary Dominican after Savonarola. If you know this.
Yep.
Wait, was usury banned and unbanned? I heard this from Catholic Answers. Lol.
No.
Bring that one up. No, don't go into the answer, Hasan. We're trying to get through these quickly. I just thought it was a funny comment, and I was going to be like, lol, but now it's an hour after the fact, and it's not as funny. Okay, advice for learning Latin. I've done this like 1,000,000 times.
I swear. I'm happy people are still asking, and they're always new people.
Actually, I should rejoice that I've been asked this 1,000,000 times. Millions must learn Latin.
Because most of the viewers are like, oh yeah, based people should learn Latin, and it's been 5 years since they started saying that, and they still haven't learned.
Dude, I'm so tired. I can't even remember the name of the article that I always recommend.
It's called Latin Autodidacts. You're working.
Oh yeah, here you go. Yeah. From Found in Antiquity. Yeah. Hasan has heard it so many times he remembers the article that I always reference. Yeah. There you go. I have On the Pontiff by St. Robert Bellarmine. Any more suggestions? He's great so far.
Saint Augustine on the unity of the Church.
What do you think of St. Robert Bellamine's arguments about Greeks falsely inserting the condemnation of Pope Honorius after the council concluded? I think St. Robert Bellamine's wrong, but this
He's
is
wrong. But the Greeks who condemned Pope Honorius were also wrong. That's the galaxy brain conclusion.
How do we square the teachings of Pius XI that Catholics can never take part in the assemblies of non-Catholics, and JP2 has said we are encouraged to?
Mortalium Animos has been basically butchered many times. I'm gonna send like a brief guide to like reading it with normal reading comprehension abilities. I'm serious. It's so frustrating. It's like when you read it and you just pass it out sentence by sentence, it's just so obvious what it's saying and what it's not saying, and it's really irritating. There you go.
The church declares that Christ gives it authority, though, so it's circular. No, Christ declared that he gave it authority when he said it.
You should read if you want to have this laid out for you clearly, Mr. Nolan. No, that wasn't Nolan. That was somebody else. Read Christian's blog post on Sola Scriptura, where he goes over like how it's prior to believing that Scripture is inspired that we accept it as the words of a divine legate, and it goes through like the order of reasoning, and it doesn't start. It's not like a loop. Like trust the church, therefore you trust the Bible, therefore you trust that Jesus said X, therefore you trust the church because X includes giving the church authority. That's not the Catholic view.
I heard St. Thomas had infused knowledge. When can anyone discern when he's infallible or not?
Dude, if you have faith, you have infused knowledge.
If I killed a mosquito because it's going to bite me, okay, thank you for the super chat. Can you explain what unum sanctum and immortale Dei mean when they speak of the two swords as the relationship between the sage?
This question's so based, but it's too late. I love this question, but it came too late.
I mean, sword is just in reference to authority. So, like, the church is an authority and a direct authority and spiritual power, indirect and temporal powers, and so the church actually holds both swords in a way. But the state has the sword of temporal power, but does not have the sword of temporal power, contra the Protestants and the Eastern Orthodox.
A two-edged sword to exact vengeance upon the nations.
If St. Thomas is right and the primacy of Christ is not true, would that mean that God changed the telos of his own plan? I mean, the question is, in the sort of speculative sphere, was it necessary for God to create all things in view of an incarnation?
You know, St. Thomas doesn't say that the primacy of Christ is not true. He just has a different view of what it means, right? So
true.
Christian actually wrote an entire thesis on this called Felix Culpa, Thomistic Primacy of Christ.
Oh yeah, I forgot that I did that.
Yeah, go and read that on his academia.edu.
Anything post-Vatican II on the liturgy, or is there not much scholarship on the Novus Ordo, especially when it comes to continuity? There's a lot of scholarship on it.
There's tons. Literally, just ask ChatGPT to give you a list of books, bro. That'll get you started at least. It won't get you the best books, but it'll get you started.
Bro, said ask ChatGPT.
ChatGPT is okay when you ask it to just give you books on the topic.
How is he supposed to know whether they're good books or not if he hasn't read anything about it?
Listen, if he's asking, is there just no books on it? I think he just needs to read something. You know, I think he needs to start somewhere.
Yeah, but what if he just reads a bunch of bad stuff? And
there actually isn't a lot of terrible scholarship on the Novus Ordo. Ironically, there isn't much. The people who just do it awfully just don't read anything. So.
Okay, I'm getting very sleepy, so we'll try to push. I know of the principle that a person sins if he does something that he is doubtful of whether something is sinful or not, but how does this principle apply in those daily occurrences of life? Well, you need to form, before you act, basically, if you have the principle is if you are acting in a moral act, you have moral hesitation to where you are questioning whether this is sinful or not. You have an obligation to form a probable conscience. So you don't have to you don't have to go through like every single argument ever and like remove all possible doubts, but you do have to have like a morally probable understanding, in basically every case. For your average layperson, it's going to be layman. I can't believe I said layperson. That's very gay. Layman, it's going to be you have authorities. Maybe it's approximate authority to you, like a priest or a confessor that are pious, or maybe it's authority like a theologian that's well regarded by the church. An opinion that they set forward. One is able to in a morally safe manner, act on the impetus of those figures.
If you're a scrupulant, it works a bit differently, though. Remember, because then you have to be certain. You don't just guess, basically. Also, if you're a scrupulant, please go read Father Augustine Baker's book Holy Wisdom, because it has the best advice for scrupulants. Just read that book, and don't bother random people about your scruples. That's really important. Don't do that.
Who's your top three favorite doctors of the church, not including St. Thomas? St. Therese of Lisieux, St. John of the Cross, St. Therese of Lisieux, St. Bonaventure, St. Augustine, St. Albert the Great, St. John Chrysostom, St. Basil. They're all awesome, okay? They're called doctors of the church for the reason, okay? Because they're awesome. It's like asking me what are my top three favorite children. I only have 3 children, but you get the point.
Yeah.
Okay, another death penalty question.
It's just the same thing. And the question is wrong in the first place.
We already answered the death penalty above, but we're going to have another stream, so we'll get into all the things you might be interested about. If ensoulment happens at conception, but identical twins split after conception, does the soul split or are one or two new souls created? Well, the soul can't split because it's a simple spiritual substance, so it doesn't give way to material division. So a new soul would be created, or perhaps delayed ensoulment is true, and
which is really weird, because it would mean that one of the twins is like quasi generated in the other, which is really strange, kind of scary.
Was St. Thomas more known in life or after his death?
After what? There are more people now.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make fun of you, Chase. That was just kind of a bad question. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be mean, but that's like, I will be known more after my death as well, because more people will exist who know me after my death than. He was very popular in his life, if that's the question you're asking. But
he wasn't a hidden gem.
Yeah, he was very well known. He was like, the Pope literally asked him to write stuff for him. Like,
just read the William de Tocco stuff.
So true. The Life of St. Thomas by William of Tocco. Yeah. Can Sunni Islam be said to be one sect, even though historically they fired each other?
That means anathematized.
That
means they called each other kuffar. No, I don't think it can. I think if your single sect is made up of people who think that God is a little boy with a clean shaven face, and other people who think that the universe is a bit of God, and other people who think that they are God, and other people who say we don't know, we just trust it all, we just trust the plan. I think that isn't one sect. That's crazy to claim that that's one sect.
Where is it recorded that Christ gave the church authority? In the Gospels?
Oh my days!
Or tradition? Also in tradition.
It's
in all the sources.
Can you imagine if it was in Scripture but not in tradition? That would be crazy. It's like they handed on the book.
Stop, you're making me laugh.
It's recorded in the Gospels, and it's handed on, but then no one talks about it. No one talks about it, but it's in the book.
Like they wrote it down and everybody just forgot about it. They're like, Christ started this church like 5 years ago, but we all forgot about it. It was like, dang, we were all there, but it just like slipped our minds that there's this church thing that we all got to listen
Yeah,
to.
development of doctrine is when Christ explicitly says, like, you have the authority to bind and loose. Whoever sins you forgive are forgiven. And everybody's just like, don't talk about it for 200 years.
I'm sorry for laughing at you, Nolan. You seem in good faith. I'm sorry.
You seem like a good kid, but like sometimes you need to know when the reasoning went really way off.
I'm sorry. I feel bad now. He's probably like, I'm never becoming Catholic because they laughed at me. You just got to learn how to laugh at yourself, You just got to learn how to laugh at yourself. Dude, the sleepy question answers go hard. I first the Takfirid, I read that as tank fired each other. I thought
That's
they were
crazy.
Like they were like
I posted him a document on this. I didn't want to talk about it on stream. I thought it would be imprudent.
Oh, well, Hasan posted a document on this because he didn't want to talk about it on stream. Why Hasan looked sad? Look,
why
we're
would I
white.
tell you that?
When people ask you like how you doing, you just say good. Okay, so
yeah, exactly. I learned this lesson when I was 8, and somebody asked me how I was doing, and I explained that I was very sad and explained all the reasons. And my parents were like, "You can't be doing that," and I thought that was very mean.
Autism. I know you don't like Molinism, but are you hostile to congruism as well, or do you think it's better? Honestly, that's a good question.
At least the people who taught it,
because congruism does not posit middle knowledge. This is a truth that you need to hold to.
Yeah,
I think it's better, but the way in which it explains like how acts can be free is kind of a little bit. I don't mean this. A lot of people hold it very smart, but it is kind of a little bit schizo. That's all I'll say. It's a lot of smart people hold it and have held it. Maybe I'm just a retard and I can't actually understand what's going on, but that's all I will say. When saints like Jerome and Philip Neri are described as having fasted on just bread and some herbs, what exactly are the herbs referring to? Like herbs in our sense or vegetables in general?
Vegetables. It was vegetables cooked in salt without any seasoning.
That would have been crazy if they were just like chomping on some oregano.
Yeah, they were like sprinkling oregano on the bread and then munching
it. I mean, to be fair, I wouldn't have been able to have an immediate answer to this, but now that I think through it, I'm like, yeah. I wouldn't make any sense. Like, if they had like the Italian seasonings, grinding, they were like grinding another piece of dry bread. They like got a little like broth and like dipped it in and got their like Italian seasonings. Yeah.
Frank, Matthew, I don't know how to say his name. Plese. He has a book called The Definitive Guide to Catholic Fasting. He's the founder of the Fellowship of St. Nicholas. That is Pope St. Nicholas the Great, the same one that we mentioned on the death penalty earlier. That book is excellent, and it answers all these questions very concisely and very practically for somebody who just wants to learn how to fast and when to fast.
Okay, I will try not to make fun of any more people. Let's say you're debating. Oh no! Let's say you're debating an atheist. If that atheist posits the universe is brute, can't we just say they concede the moment they bring up, since they lack ontology via the lack of sufficient reason?
The universe is a brute animal?
No, they mean like a universe is like having like a complete lack of sufficient reason.
Yeah.
I mean, we would just say that this would be against the first principles of reason, like grasp in the very intuition of the fact that that which is and that which is not is not. If you want this explained in like very autistically detail, read volume 1 of De Revelatione from Gary Goulagrange. He like draws all of the principles of reason from the immediate intuition of the principle of identity. So
that's cool.
Yeah, that I'm too stupid to understand all the philosophy stuff, so I'm using that as a crutch. Patrick P, thank you for the super chat. Unfortunately, I do not see your question. That was like 5 minutes ago, so I should be able to find it.
Well, I'm in a schizo white
Nope, you
room
just sent me
because
$2, bro.
my aunt built a room full of a house full of schizo white rooms for my grandparents. That's why.
Dude, white rooms are based.
Yeah,
It's like you're literally like a Carthusian right now,
yeah.
chilling in your plain white room. If a Catholic marries a non-Catholic, how does the understanding gained from raising children in the Catholic? Why'd you go like,
Don't be doing that.
oh, in the Catholic faith affect the non-Catholic spouse's responsibility for salvation through the church?
It's a
I
very
mean,
good question.
if they're living like a authentically Catholic life, a sacramental life where the effects of sanctifying grace are like very evident, then the spouse will probably just be damned. I mean, almost
Yeah,
certainly.
yeah.
But I mean,
If
that's assuming like that's actually occurring.
if you're not a credible witness, then you're the one sitting. So because you have a
True.
responsibility to the salvation of your spouse. I think best method of fasting in modern times is literally don't add dressing or eat sugary things besides what's naturally in things. No, the best method of fasting in modern times is the best method of fasting in 400 AD, actually. Just fast properly. There's no good excuses. Oh, we're more used to comfort now. Yeah, all the more reason.
Bro literally was
Stop
adding
being
rosemary
babies.
to his bread during his fasting periods. It's over. That means
And
all you
yeah,
have to
but then he
that means you have
adds
to redo all of them.
and I love it. Fight me. Like, what do you mean by I love it? You mean you enjoy it? If you enjoy it, then you're kind of then why are you doing that? Just eat the bread. Why don't you put ash on your bread?
I
I'm
mean, I'm gonna
kidding.
be honest, dude. During fasting periods, I like drink Guinness, so I can't even.
Dude, there's been so many days where I've wanted to do that.
My beer collation is so awesome. Like I have my meal at like 3 o'clock. I have my like little fish and
Bro, be a
usually
collation, but
potato.
it's Foster's.
Yeah, true. And then I have my little collation, and it's usually I'll either my two go-to collations are either like I'll make some like guacamole and have like guacamole and chips
Yeah.
because you have to remember, guys, with like a traditional fasting period, you're not only is it like no meat, it's also no dairy, and you'd be shocked. Like I didn't realize how much dairy I actually eat.
Yeah.
Butter, milk, eggs, cheese. Like there's just so much stuff that you eat dairy in. So when you're thinking about, especially me, and I have the eating habits of a toddler, um, especially with me, it's like I'm asking the question of how do I eat without
Bro said no dairy,
all of this
question mark, question
meat
mark,
and
question mark,
dairy?
question mark, question mark.
So I just eat fish. I can't even imagine how it was when you couldn't eat fish or oil. Like I probably would just eat bread and beer. Like that's all I would. That's all I would cons.
What's going on? That's not good.
I know it. I'm haunted or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so people are like, what the heck? No dairy? Yeah, so the traditional fast is no dairy and eggs or meat. And when you go a little bit harder, no oil and no fish. Although in the Latin church we got rid of ever having no fish. Basically, there's no day where we by the medieval era there's no day where we wouldn't be allowed to eat fish. But I think it's good practice to like in a very hard fasting period like Lent or Advent to like eat fish on the Sundays because you continue abstaining in the traditional fast. You don't fast, so you still have more than one meal, but you continue abstaining from meat, eggs, and dairy all 46 days of Lent. So Christian's done a bunch of videos on fasting during Lent this year. So if you want to learn about it, go watch them. Christian's already
Yeah,
done this. I've
I
already
have done a
dealt with
lot.
this as
I'm
a man.
excited. When frick, what the frick is going on?
That's
Like
creepy.
haunted or something?
Is it like the
What?
light? Is it the light in your room or is
It's
it
going out?
just the
Yes,
camera?
it's a light in my room. It's like every time I
Dang.
move, the light turns on or off. So I just got to stay still. Yeah, I can't wait for Advent this year. We'll do like another big like 2 hour stream going through the whole history of like Advent fasting practices and how they differ in different ages and stuff like that. I'm really excited. And then we'll do a Scholastic Answers fastathon during the time period, because that'll be especially relevant to our Tavnet trips. I'll be going to North Africa again this year, so I'll probably during some of the fasting period I'll be overseas. But I want to make a little bit more content when I'm overseas this time. I think that it'll interest a lot more people in the mission. Although I obviously have to have the security concerns.
Oh yeah, the olive oil.
Oh yeah. I put this question up, but we never answered it. Schedule your time. So if you're going, that's like the best piece of advice. Two pieces of advice. Schedule your time. So like you're gonna do it at X time, same time every day. I found that to be very helpful, especially because now that I have 3 kids, it's like a lot more difficult. And also remote dispositions. Learn about what remote dispositions are. Like if you read anything about mental prayer, read about remote dispositions.
Read St. Ignatius. He
Or the
explains
remote. Just look up in any like work on mental prayer. Look up remote preparation for mental prayer. Let me see if I Google it if something comes up. Yeah, actually, the first thing, remote preparation for mental prayer. Talks about different vices, but I would suggest searching around in different classic authors on this.
We just got the first request for the Christian B. Wagner Mass Fit, by the way. It's so over. It's so over.
Another reason I'm so sleepy right now is I'm on my cut right now, so I'm cut maxing. You'll see. I'll post the first Mass Fit. I'll post the first Mass Fit after the cut. Just kidding. I'm not doing that. I think
you're gonna be disappointed. I go in like smart casual, so you wouldn't be happy with my quote unquote Mass Fit. Dang.
We should take a Mass Fit picture in North Africa. While we're cassicked up.
Dude, the Vestis Talaris thing is going to go so hard. We need to buy those Moroccan. We need to go buy those. The things with the burnous, the
jalaba or whatever.
Yeah, the hooded jalaba with that goes down to the ankles. That's so based.
But yeah, we'll be wearing like random like North African like traditional wear. It'd be like if we put on like a headdress. That's like with Indians.
Dude, Robert de Nobile, Francis Xavier, they all did it. Why can't we do it? I want to dress up as locals as well.
It's not like we wear a cassock in public without. I mean, I guess in Tunisia we could.
I mean, the thing is that
for us to, it would be like impersonating a cleric.
Remember our buddy who works with that one religious order? He came to Birmingham and we hung out, and he was walking up and down in Pakistani areas in Birmingham with his beard and his cassock on. And he was like, "Oh, are people going to think something's weird?" And then he saw 3 Pakistanis walking down the road in what basically looked like cassocks. And he was like, "Oh, that's why nobody's thought anything of it." Because they basically wear cassocks.
We'll bring back distinctive garments because they'll just be like too confused to differentiate, and they'll just think it's like a stylistic choice.
Yeah.
You just eat lentils in bread, bro. Eventually it doesn't feel like food if you don't add oil or salt.
That's true.
True.
But you'll get sick if you only eat lentils and bread, unironically. If you do that all 46 days, you'll get sick. Or it'll at least be damaging for your bones and stuff. When you fast, you should stay healthy. The whole point, when you fast, you don't want to be damaging your mind's ability to be habitually recollected. Because the whole point of fasting is to aid your prayers. And since harming your body can harm the efficaciousness of your prayers, you should work hard not to be delirious or feeble-minded when you fast.
Yeah. I'm sleepy maxing right now,
so true.
Yeah, we've been having to cut off this stream for like 20 minutes, but we decided to continue for some weird reason.
We actually got an interesting question from Minion Thomist.
Do you guys celebrate the TLM when you go to North Africa? I feel like I remember this being the case. Yeah, we do celebrate the TLM. So I have never altar served a Novus Ordo, but I have altar served TLMs before. So I know the last time also my Latin pronunciation was not that great, but this time my Latin pronunciation will be a lot better. So I've done a lot. I've tried to do at least a lot more externally vocated Latin.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Funniest saint story. Whatever you do, okay. I'm not telling you the story, but go and read into the life of Saint Peter Claver.
this is actually such a good question. This is such
What
a
is
good question.
orthodoxy?
Or
Hey
orthodoxy.
guys, what's going on? Like, as a brown man, what's going up with all you white guys and your English spelling? Can you please sort it out? But seriously, I don't know what's been going on, but these Wagner streams, every single
It's
time I
Gen
watch
Alpha
one of these
people.
streams,
It's Gen Alpha people.
dude, you Gen Alphas need to read books. It's freaking embarrassing. Start reading books and spell
Dude, no,
words.
he asked a good question. Also, he spelled safeguarded wrong too.
Safeguarded.
He spelled succession right, which is that's good.
That's nice.
I'm sorry, Nathaniel. I didn't mean to make it like that, but Hasan, he just forced it.
I could not stop myself. These things are upsetting me.
Yeah, because I mean, apostolic succession, it's something which passes down in office, which was given to the apostles, and with this office, there are objective promises which are attached to it. I mean, that's just the simple answer. So Christ has promised that with these individuals, they will have teaching authority. And along with this teaching authority are certain gifts which come along with it. Kind of similar, for example, to, marriage. There are certain gifts which are given by the sacrament of matrimony or confirmation or any of the other sacraments, except this is obviously in a much higher degree. And also for considering like the universal church as a whole in an indefectible way. But yeah, I should leave now.
There's also just the promise of Christ. So just the fact that Christ told us that he had predestined things to go that way means that we can trust that the community he told us he was going to predestine not to go into error won't go into error. So that's nice.
I'm Gen Alpha. Oh, dude.
No wonder you're not a Thomist.
There are literally Gen Alpha people who are...
Gen Alpha Kid is like Justin Martyr fan 155.
Based. He's so real for that. I just can't believe there's Gen Alpha people using the internet.
And he has an Attack on Titan profile picture in 2025.
W. King.
No, he's
is Gen Alpha like even more radical than Gen Z, or they can be super blue pilled?
It goes either way. You meet a lot of like right wing Gen Alpha guys, especially the Catholic ones, and they're like full on like Trent Horn, racial pluralist, kind of like weird stuff.
Trent Horn? Did you just say they're Trent Horn?
Yeah, they're like
Gen Alpha watching Trent Horn.
Racial pluralist, don't believe in what the wisdom tradition says about what the wisdom literature says about women. It gets bad sometimes.
Why do you say Trent Horn? He's like distinctive for this. It's not like Trent Horn invented this. That's just like normie, millennial.
I mean, he's very much, he's become like an archetypal example of this because he's made so many videos about these topics, where he's basically just been like weird egalitarianism stuff.
Gen Alpha or Loftonites. True.
In spirit, yeah.
This is a trick.
That is a trick.
Anyways.
For a reason that we won't explain right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm leaving. Okay. Bye, guys. Remember, like, subscribe. Become Patreon.
Roll over
become Patreon. Join. Become Patreon. Goodbye.
Oh,
Caught at night, dude. No, I'm gonna just rosary and sleep. That's all.
No, we have work tomorrow. No.
I have work tomorrow.
We all do.
It's true. I do have work tomorrow.
It sucks. I'm not gonna get a vacation until 2027 at this rate.
Okay, but you don't have a wife and kids, so it's like you just chill.
Dude, no.
Okay, I read the Summa, and like all of my kids are like in unison screaming, while also one of them is trying to like jump on me and like climb over me, and then they think it's funny to like jump off the end of the couch and like jump onto me while I'm
Yeah,
trying to
the
read.
difference is that you're having that done to your body. I'm having that done to my soul by a bunch of retarded brown people.
Hey, come on. You're such a monkey sometimes. Anyways, okay, you all have a fantastic rest of your evening. And as always, God bless.